Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are actually Jaclyn Karabinas is going to be talking about making the most out of Google Forms for remote teaching and learning. Sarah Gallagher and I are here from Demonstrated Success, and we will be monitoring questions. Let's see, right now everybody is on mute, and we have to leave people that way because there are so many people on the webinar that we get background noises and dogs barking and telephones ringing. So we keep everybody on mute, but you certainly can ask questions as we go. There's a little, on the control panel, there's a little section for questions. All you do is click on that and enter a question, and Sarah and I will be watching. We'll answer the ones we can, and the questions that we can't answer, I promise Jaclyn will answer them after we send the questions to her, and she sends them back to us with answers, and we'll post them. So we're going to post everything. We'll post the PowerPoint and the answers to the questions and the certificate on a Google in a Google folder, and we'll send you that link after the webinar is over. You'll be able to watch this webinar online on YouTube after also. Let's see, go to the next page. This is Jaclyn. She's a Google certified trainer. She also works for Heinemann, and this is probably your 6th or 7th Google webinar you've done with us, right, Jaclyn?
Yeah, I think it's 8 actually.
Wow. And there are a number of people on each of these. You'd be shocked. Should I tell them? Yeah, right now there are 730 people on, and still more people getting on. So this is a hot topic, and Jaclyn, you are a hot speaker here. Everybody wants to. And I'm Ann. I'm Director of Assessment and the Math Curriculum, and Sarah Gallagher is Professional Development Specialist for Demonstrated Success. And we both have a combined million years of teaching, or all three of us a million years. Mm-hmm. I want to thank the DOE for sponsoring these webinars. They've been very kind and trying to help everybody, and you guys have been amazing. I hope you all know that Vice President Pence acknowledged or stated that we and who was the other state? There was one other state that
Doesn't matter. New Hampshire.
It doesn't matter because New Hampshire we were picked out as doing exceptional work for this remote learning, which is really amazing considering no warning, and we just jumped right into it. So you guys, thank you to all of you and to the students, and patience. We all need patience as we go through all this process. So hang in there. Mm-hmm. If you go to NewHampshireLearnsRemotely.com, there is so much information out there. It's all put out on the DOE site. So New Hampshire Learns Remotely, lots and lots of information you can get there. Jaclyn is going to, Jaclyn is going to do a live demonstration, so she's not going to be using slides. Be patient. You can do this, and it takes small steps. Ask for help. Ask Jaclyn for help. Ask us for help. And just be patient. It's only been like 5 weeks we've been doing this, and that's really new. Do you have anything else to say before we get started? Sarah, Jaclyn?
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to make you the presenter.
Okay.
Switch you over. Hold on a sec. I'll tell you about those at the end. Jaclyn. There you are. I think there you are. I gotta find you. Okay. We're going to take ourselves off of the video because it takes up a lot of the screen. And if we're off of video, Jaclyn can show more of her screen.
All right, great. Can everyone see my screen? Making the most of Google Forms? Looks like yes. So welcome everyone. I'm going to leave my camera on just for a moment, and then I'll take it off so you can see more of the screen. I did put it.
I'm not sure. Sarah, can you see Jaclyn's screen? I can't see it. It may just be mine.
No, I can't.
No.
Okay. Says it's currently showing the main screen, but maybe I should stop and restart.
Let me just go back to.
Let's try that.
There we go. Yep, perfect.
Is that on now?
Yep, looks
Great.
great.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Great. Thanks for coming today, everyone. I know it's hard to carve out an hour of your day when there aren't enough hours in the day right now at all, especially at this time of day where you're tired of looking at a screen. So those of you that are watching the recording later, I'm glad you made a choice for yourself that you needed to right now. I feel like I've been spending a lot of time with teachers all over the state, and I'm happy to see so many here again. I'm really happy to help you find tools that will support what you're trying to do and hopefully make your life a little easier and give you some connections with your students. Today, we're looking closely at Google Forms for remote teaching and learning, and this has been a huge request in a lot of the different webinars we've done to this point, so I'm glad we finally got to the point where we're able to give this webinar. So those of you that have been attending the webinars with me before, you know me. I'll just quickly introduce myself as I was a classroom teacher. I still work with classroom teachers, and I get to work with teachers in a variety of different ways now, away from my own classroom. And so all of the digital tools that I use and talk about, I've either done in my own class, experimented, tried with my own students, used in other classrooms. And so all of these things are based on the reality of knowing what it's like to be using tools and interacting with students. So just want to make sure that you know that I do have that perspective. I put in the chat box on the right. If you look on the right and you open up the chat box, I put a link. Will bring you to this agenda. I've been finding these really useful to give to people instead of slides, just a quick outline of the things that I'm talking about. A few screenshots. This one is actually longer than the ones I've done in the past for the previous webinars because I did want to include a few spreadsheets, a few screenshots to show you some things, and of course links to resources. And so a lot of the things that you might be wondering are going to be right here on this sheet. So if you have, Anne, I'm just wondering if you could double check on the muting the microphones.
Does it seem like there are people talking? Let me see. I'll check.
Yeah, I don't hear anything now. I just heard a few things before. I wasn't quite sure if it was just interference or.
It looks like people are
okay.
muted.
All right, wonderful. Thanks so much. So I've been beginning every webinar really thinking, really trying to center ourselves and thinking about what we're trying to do right now, knowing that we weren't trained to be, most of us, but online instructors, and that we didn't all opt into this as online learning practice. So like students would have if they were doing a homeschool or chose a virtual school. And so we're in a very different situation. So everything you're learning so many new things overnight. So make sure to applaud yourself for that, but also hold yourself in compassion and take your time. Always keeping in mind these three things for everything we're doing right now, that relationships and community are the most important to maintain, and really thinking about those who we serve in our school communities. How can we keep kids safe online, and making choices with relationships and community in mind. Knowing that curriculum should be prioritized, and we need to set realistic goals and expectations right now. We still want students to have learning experiences, of course, but we also need to remember that if we left off at Unit 5, we're not necessarily starting Unit 6 right away. It just might not go that way, and we might have to think a little bit differently right now. And that our supporting tech and tools should always support access and goals. And so thinking in terms of Google Forms today, once I jump in and show you some examples of forms, from surveys to check-ins and examples of assessments, that we will be able to really think about if Forms is the right tool for what you're trying to do, and talk about when Forms is the right tool. So a lot of people asked, what is a form? It hadn't even explored forms before. And so I'm going to jump in and show you some example forms. And if you've ever taken a survey, like a SurveyMonkey or anything like that, that's essentially what you're doing. It's a link that's sent out And the link is sent out and we are gathering information. Okay, just checking on that noise to see what that might be. So thinking about gathering information, there's so much information that we can gather from students and families at this time. We want to know how they're doing. We want to check in. We want to be able to gather their thoughts and opinions on things and reflection. We want to be able to, we're not sitting with them and we're not watching them respond to learning. So we want to be able to see what they're learning and see how they're doing, what they might need. And so really thinking in terms of when is Forms the right tool, you have to think about what kind of information do I need to gather right now? How do I want to organize this information? Thinking about the depth of knowledge. And so if you're not familiar with depth of knowledge, you probably see it in a number of different forms, but thinking in terms of depth of knowledge 1 through 4. Are we, depth of knowledge 1, are we asking questions that have one right answer, that everyone would respond with one right answer? That's something that a form can gather and can correct on its own. And I always say if a computer can score it, it should. We might have things that are anecdotal that maybe we want to review and read and give feedback on our own. What kind of feedback do we want to give and what kind of scoring? So those are the kinds of questions we'll keep in mind when deciding if Forms is the right tool for you. So I'm going to open a few forms right now so you can take a look. So here's an example of, actually I'm going to take my camera off now that I'm jumping in, so that way you'll be able to see more of my screen. All right, so I'm going to put this in preview mode. There we go. So we can see it how somebody would see the form, like a student or a family member, community member, if they were receiving the form. The only difference is this little pencil in the bottom. You are the only one who sees that. So you, as the creator, are the only one that sees this edit button. And also, if you create the form within a classroom and there's a co-teacher in that classroom, they would likely also see this, this edit pencil. So here's an example of a weekly check-in. You can see I'm gathering information. My questions are almost on like little cards. I'm gathering information. I have multiple choice. I can answer, I'll just answer some really quickly so you can see, and you'll get a chance to do this as well. So I said, okay, I'm glad your week was good. What was the best part? I might just say playing outside, just doing this quickly so you can get a feel for what the form looks like. Is there something I'm looking forward to? Yes, my birthday. It's not really my birthday next week. I'm just saying that. Okay, and then here, you can see I customized the end too, and so I'll show you how to do that. So someone has taken my check-in form. They've offered information. I'm gathering the information, and that is essentially, that is a form in a nutshell. Here's an example of a form with a variety of different question types. And again, this little eye up here, I'm going to use this eye and click on it. This is the preview. This is how you can always see exactly what it's going to look like for your students, which is a huge bonus. So I'm going to click the preview. And here we are. So you can see I've included an image. I have checkboxes, another question style type. I've included math. I have short answer, another one where I've included an image with choices. This is the type of question where, depending on the type of device students are on, they might be able to create work and attach the file, or take a picture on their device and put it in their drive and link the file, and that kind of thing. So just another example of what a form might look like. Here's one, this is similar to one that I used to use with my students when I first started using Google Forms, maybe, I don't know, 12 years ago. One of the very first things I did was use forms to gather weekly information about students and their reading life. And so thinking about the kinds of books that they're reading, the genres, just to help students build their own list of like a reading log, but more personal, to kind of keep a collection of the books they've read, to look for patterns. It's something that I would be able to look at as their teacher, to really see the kinds of texts they're reading, and really created some great information for both myself as a teacher and the student as we moved along in the year. Exit tickets, another great way that you can include forms. Again, formative assessment, you're gathering information, but you just want to have it in a quick, simple, easily accessible way. I know a lot of you offered questions before the webinar about trying to find where everything is, and so I'm going to show you that for sure. So again, just lots of samples of forms so that I can first, for those of you that aren't familiar, so you at least have something that you can have in mind. So heading over into forms, I'm going to show you how to get there. So you get to forms from your drive. So I'm in my drive, and I can go over here to the left to new, and I click on new. When I click on new, I might not see forms right away, so I might need to go to more, and then Google Forms, and I can select it from there. And now I get my blank form that opens. Now there is another way to get forms. It is in Classroom, and I'm going to show that right now because I want to talk about the distinction between creating a form in Drive and then using it later versus creating the form from a quiz assignment in Classroom and then using the form. It's essentially the same thing. They live in different places. So I just wanted to make sure that I showed you all of that. Okay, just double checking. Okay, just taking a quick look at the questions. So here we are in forms, and I'm going to just jump over into Classroom really quick. Sorry for the super fast clicking, but I just wanted to get here. So here I am in Classroom, and if I go into my Classwork tab thinking, okay, I'm going to start creating, I want to create a weekly check-in, I want to create an assessment, what is it I want to create? You can do it here and do quiz assignment. This is really just a shortcut to opening an assignment that has a blank form attached to it. That's all. The difference is if I do this one here and it just skipped the steps of me linking a form on, now where this lives in my drive is in a very different place. So everything in Classroom lives in the Classroom folders. And so you have a folder in your drive called Classroom, and then you have a folder for each class, and then within those you have a folder for each assignment. That is where you'll find the quizzes when you make them from this build versus if you just go to Drive and you create a new form. This is going to depend on your organizational practices yourself. Me personally, I would want to create them separately so I can store them and organize them in a way that makes sense to me, and then just bring them into the Classroom as a link later versus create it in Classroom. So just sharing that little difference. So let's take a look at the anatomy of a form really quick. We have our title at the top and title here. Very important. Of course, you can change the color, choose an image for the background. These are your fun formatting options. The preview we experienced before, the little eye, that shows you the view of what students will see. We have our gear. A lot of these are looking probably pretty familiar to you too, because Google uses these same kind of icons everywhere, and all you have to do is hover and they remind you what they do. So here in settings, this is where we're going to take a look and say, okay, I have 3 tabs: general, presentation, and quizzes. So I have 3 different sets of options here. I want to collect email addresses. Do I want to limit to run response? Do I want students to be able to edit after they submit? I only use this one if we're taking a survey where all students need to see the results for whatever reason. Response receipts would send students an email. And so these are the different options that you have. Thinking in settings, that was the gear, settings, and then general. Here I go over to presentation. Well, what does it look like? Do I want a progress bar? Do I want to shuffle the questions? Do I want to show a link to submit another response? That would be as students are supposed to use the same form maybe week after week, something like that. And then I think this part is really important, this confirmation message. That's where you can, you can say, I miss you, or say, so glad, you're doing great, or just a message about what's coming next, something like that. So you can make that's what they'll see whenever they finish. And if it's something that you do want to be a quiz, meaning you want it to be scored, you want to assign various points to each question, you want to release the grade immediately or later, we'll look at that. This is where you go through all of the different steps and say, what is it that I want to do with this as far as scoring? There were a lot of questions about integrity and lock mode and things like that for questions. The short answer is yes, you can turn locked mode on a form if you have school managed Chromebooks. I would say though that, you can certainly do that, but I'm sitting here right now with an iPad to my right, a phone to my left, and another computer to the side of me. And while certainly that's not every student's reality, for some students it is. So locking their screen probably isn't going to do a whole lot for you. My best advice for that is to assess really open-ended questions at this time, where really thinking depths of knowledge 3 and 4, where they really have to apply and synthesize and generate original thinking. So that's just my little thought on locked mode. So I'm going to come back out of settings here. The send in form is something that you only need if you're planning on sending it right through email, or you want to copy and paste the link and send it out on email, or you want to get the embed code to embed in a website. My thought, and then of course we want this so that we collect email addresses. My thought is that many of you are doing this through Classroom. If you're not, then you would choose the link and paste that link in wherever you're putting it. But if you are doing it through Classroom, you don't need this send button at all, because Classroom is going to do all of that for you. So I know that that's probably a point of confusion for many of you. So our 3 little dots in Google always means more menu, more options, and they're always different. So anytime you click on those, it's going to be a more menu. Lots of different options here. Forms is its own type of app. It's different than the other ones in that you don't share and have the sharing rights and settings with forms in the same way that you do with docs and slides and sheets and those kinds of things. So if you wanted to co-create a form with a colleague, you can certainly do that. That's why it's called add collaborators, not share, because you're not ever sharing a form. You are posting the link for other people to access, fill in their information, and then you get it. So the only time you're really giving it to someone else to edit is if you're adding them as a collaborator. And I just wanted to make sure that I touched on all of those menu items, and I'm just going to pop over and take a peek into questions really quick. So yes, Google Forms can be used if students are using Google Classroom but aren't using email. Absolutely. And I'm going to show you how they'll still be able to see their responses. If students need to write or draw, I'd see 2 different questions about students writing or drawing on a form. There are a few ways you can achieve this. One of them would be to, if they were drawing and you did the question type where they have to upload a picture or add a file, students would need the skill though to take a picture or create a picture online, save it to their drive, and then link it from there. So if they have that skill set, it will work. Other than that, I can think of some other ideas for submitting drawings, but I'll show if we have time at the end. Could parents also answer the surveys? Absolutely. At the beginning of every school year, and then again in the middle of the school year, I used to send a form, and I would send the same one so that I could gather information from families just to really get to know the parent perspective on what they see will work best for their child. So absolutely, you could send that. Do you need to do the settings for every form? The short answer is yes, but there are some that you can set for all of them. So your preferences, your form preferences, under the 3 dots in the top right, I find this to be very confusing. If you go to preferences, these are actually set default settings. So you could say, I want to collect email addresses every time, no matter what, for all forms I ever create. And I want to make every question required. You could decide if you wanted every form you ever made to only be based on 100, that kind of thing. I'm going to uncheck that. And you can go from there. So these are really the only settings that you can keep from time to time. Okay, let's take a look here. Yes, let's take a look here at the, I like to call it the anatomy of the form. When you're learning a new tool, it's really helpful to just kind of get to know how it's laid out. And so when I look at a form, I see cards. So do you see how I'm kind of, see this little in the middle? There's like this 3x2 icon, and I get this, I can drag this around as I have questions. Let me get to one that's created, yeah. So I can drag the question order around with this little guy. My question types are over here. When I choose this drop down, I have a wide range of question types that I can pick from. If I worked really hard at a question and I want to copy it and then just make some edits to fit the content of the next question, I can use this duplicate button. Here's required, on or off. I want to get rid of it and start over. Description and response validation. Description is extra information if you want to add underneath, give some context or clarity to the question, you can do that. And response validation would be if you wanted to make sure that students entered something that, only had a certain length or was only a number between 1 and 10 and various things like that. So something to play with. It also is, it works off of AI. So if you start typing a question, it guesses what question type it thinks you want. It's both scary and convenient. So just something to keep in mind that as you start typing, I'll show you right now. So if I say, what are the ways that you can, okay. So it's like, it sounds like you're going to be describing something. I'm going to pick paragraph. And there was one time I designed a question where it even knew that I wanted a multiple choice grid. These are like the sometimes, always, never, where you have like a list of statements or a list of questions and something like that. It knew that was what I wanted. It was really interesting. So again, thinking in terms of the anatomy of a form, I have my questions here, and they just kind of build on little question cards. Over here on the right, I have my fun icon tools here. So here is where I add a new question, import a question, I'll come back to that, add a title and description. That's if you really want to separate different portions of your form, add an image, add a video, or add a section. And what a section will do is it's a good way to chunk learning or chunk an assessment. You could do 5 questions, add a section. And then what it will do then is it will finish the screen and the student will have to click next to go to the next screen. So it kind of provides a natural visual break. And these are all adding sort of in between questions. So if you wanted to put an image and the next 5 questions went with the image, you could do that. Or you wanted to do a video and the next 3 questions went with the video, you could add it here. If you want to add an image right in the spot, this is really good for your younger students or for your students who work really well with picture cues. You'll use this option here. And so it will place a picture right there. You could do the same thing for the choices. So see here, how was your week? Here's my multiple choice. And again, I have my add an image here. So I could do the words in the image or I could just do images. For this, I don't have time to go into this feature in detail. If you want to know more about it, definitely email me. But I did have a couple of questions about having conditional paths. So if somebody answers a question one way, the form goes in one direction. If they answer it in another way, the form takes them down another path. The way to do that is to create what's called sections. and name them so that when you build your navigation, you can see where it is you're taking people. This is a really good thing to plan out on paper first. My brain doesn't work this way at all. I've seen students write choose your own adventure stories in Google Forms with this feature, and it blows my mind every time. I don't think this way at all, so it's really hard for me. But I wanted, you know, if they chose excellent, good, or okay, I wanted them to go to a section where they could tell me what was good or okay about it. But if, you know, I got a pretty negative response, it's going to take them to another section that says, hey, tell me about your tough week. So you could use this feature in a variety of ways. But if you're new to forums, set this feature in the back of your mind for a little bit. Give yourself a chance to really get to know the tool before you twist your brain up, I think, in that way to build that kind of form. So one way to really think about what kind of questions you want to ask, you really need to think about what information you want to gather. I mean, you know, we aren't able to gather information in the same way online. We have to gather it in a very different way. We can't gather what students are learning and when they're confused from their facial expression all the time and all of that. So really thinking about this, and back to this, you know, this sort of process I laid out. What are we gathering? Is this a black and white answer? Or is this something where I want them to compare and contrast or apply thinking? So that's how you decide what your question type is going to be. On a personal level, professional level, I always felt as though including a range of questions on an assessment to assess all depths of knowledge levels is something that is important to me. But online, that gets very complicated because if I want forms, this is important for those of you that want forms to grade everything and score everything. If you want forms to score something, it needs to be something that a computer can score. You know, a computer can't score an open response or an essay. You're going to have to do that. It's going to make that auto grade feature in here a little messy for you. If you can find a system to make it work, by all means, go for it. If it's driving you bonkers, you may want to use forms to only self-score things that have one answer and it can score, and do your more open response, your higher level thinking questions in an assignment with a doc, or you could still do them in a form. You would just hand score each one. I'm going to jump over to
Jaclyn,
questions before yes.
There's actually, I was going to just tell you a question that has come up quite a bit. There's people have asked, what is the blue button for, the blue box for? Many people are asking that.
Yes, good question. So this is a tool called Equatio. If you teach math, this is the tool you need. And so I think a few webinars ago I mentioned it, but it used to be free across a couple of apps. And I hear now it's not free at all. And so you can get a 30-day trial. So listen, if you're someone that's been trying to create slideshows, docs, forms, you want to do math equations in forms, you need to get this tool. And so get Equatio. It's Equatio, and I'll make sure it's in the notes if it's not already, because this is going to save you. And if your students need to do a lot of mathematical work online, you may want to beg someone at school to buy it for you, honestly, because it just takes away the pain that is getting mathematical equations here in forms or really on any of the apps. So essentially how you use it is you click it. If it's not on the screen, you enable it by clicking it up here in your the Chrome extension. So you click it up there, and then I get this new bar at the bottom that opens, and I open my equation editor, and I can speak 1/4 plus 1/2 equals X. And it will put it in there for you. I'm still putting things in. And see, it heard me say and it put a plus sign. Like it will, it's a really awesome tool. And it inserts it as an image. So just something to play with and think about. There we go. So here it is, it inserts it into there. So that's what that tool is. Let's see, just taking a quick look at the question. Okay, all right, here we go. So I'm going to go into Classroom now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to link a form in an assignment. And then I'm going to have you, those of you that want to, if you want to join the classroom to access the form and experience the student view, I'm going to invite you to do that. If you just want to sit back and watch, I also have a student view window open so I can flip back and forth. But you will need to join the class with a personal Gmail. So it can't be your school Google account because your school likely has blocked you from joining other classrooms and other domains. But again, if you don't join the class, you'll still be able to see, but if you want to participate in it, you'll be able to. So I'm just gonna jump over to the class. And here we are. So I'm in my fun grade 5 super class. So if you want to join the class, it's 425 EJ X5, and I'll leave that up for a moment. And when you get in there to the class and you'll join as a student, you'll go to the Classwork tab and you'll see where I'm going to be in just a moment, but you'll see it from the student side. So I'll just read that again, 425 EJX5. If you want to join the class, you don't have to by any means. All right, so here I am in my Classwork tab. I like to organize my Classwork tab with topics. That way I can easily drag a topic down to the bottom when it's all done to sort of keep this clean, and I'll be able to filter by my topics here on the left. This is just here for today. And so if I'm going to go in here and click create and I want it to show up with this topic, I'm going to tell it that. If I don't remember to do that, you can always drag them and reorganize them later. But just wanted to show you that little tip. So here I am in Classwork. I can click create. And remember I said you can do assignment or quiz assignment. If you do quiz assignment, it's going to create the form and store it in your classroom folder. If that works for you, fine. Me personally, I like to have already created them in Drive. And then instead of clicking create, I click add. So here I am, I go to add in Google Drive. And I'm going to click on my Drive. I have my forms folder here. And I'm going to put this one in. Oops, we already did that one. So I select it, I click add, and here it is. Here's the form. I can decide if I'm doing grade importing or not. Super important. If you want to import grades, you have to select this from the beginning. You can't backtrack and do it later. So know before you post it if it's something that you want to gather scores and import them into your Google Classroom gradebook if you're using that. I know a lot of people don't use it. I personally would not use it, but that's just my own personal setup with scoring. So here's my form. The other thing to know is that you can't link any other documents, graphic organizers, videos, or anything here if you want this to import grades. I don't know why. It's just an annoying feature that I know a lot of you have probably already figured out. You probably said, why aren't my scores importing? Probably because you had something else linked to it. And so I might say here, your reading reflection, whoops, and then give my instructions. Maybe I say, complete this at the end of May, or whatever it is, whatever I want to tell them. So now I need to go into the details. Who is it for? What class? Is it for all of the students in that class? Or is it only for a few of the students? And again, I can select who. Is it for points or not? I know a lot of people right now are doing one. You did it or you didn't. You can choose your due date. And here's where you choose your topic so it knows where to go. Clicking here on the right. All right, and now I am set up. You can add a rubric if you're, I highly recommend this if you're doing lengthier responses and you want to add your general response rubric or something, you can do that here. I don't have a lot of time to model that right now, but it's a nice feature if you're feeling comfortable with forms and you want to try that out. So the big question of the last month has been, why can't I schedule a form for multiple classes at once. And my answer is, I know, it's a pain. No, you can't do it. I'm sorry to say. But if you go down the bottom left and the question mark and you do report issue or request feature, just keep requesting it. They're getting inundated with these requests right now. They must be, because I've been getting a lot of them. And so, yeah, just request the feature. The one thing you can do is you can reuse the post, so you can go into the other class and you can use that. Here we go. You can use this feature. So here I am back in my an edited form, a form ready for editing. This little feature over here, import question. If you want to schedule, oh, sorry, that's not the right one at all. Different screen. Sorry, everyone. If you want to go in and import it, you can do it. I'm going to show you another screen. Sorry, didn't mean to confuse you there. All right, I'm going to click assign just so we can get this out there. All right, there we go. Okay, so this is what I meant to just show you. So if you click create and you say, okay, I scheduled my form in period 1. I want to schedule in period 4 now. You go here, reuse post. So I'm back in Classwork, create, reuse post, and it's going to pull up every other form I've ever made. And I can find it, and I can reuse, or every other post, and I can reuse that post, and it will just bring it right here into this classroom. And so that's the workaround for that. All right, I'm just going to pause and jump over to the questions for a moment.
So Jaclyn, it's Sarah. I've been monitoring the questions, lots and lots of questions, which is great. A lot of people are having a hard time actually getting into the classroom, and I do know that you said it's okay, just kind of sit back and watch if you can't enter.
Yeah.
But they're saying the code is not working. So I don't know if you can quickly just speak to that and troubleshoot that.
Sure. So if you're getting a message that the code is invalid, that's because you're either trying to log in to the class with your school Google account, or if you switched over and you tried to switch over to your personal Google account in the same browser that you're in right now, sometimes it will just bounce back and default to your school account. So that's why a lot of you are probably getting that, not probably, that is why you are all getting that message. Let's see how many people are in here so far now. Yeah, there's a good number of people in here now. So I know that it's working, but don't stress yourself out if you can't figure out how to make sure that it logs you in with a personal versus your school G Suite account, because you'll still be able to see. Okay. If parents do not have a Google form, then they can't open it. Other way to get around it, they don't need Google Forms at all. You send it by a link and they open it, and will open in a browser, so they won't need to have any sort of app or anything for that. Yes, can you include audio or read aloud for English learners or students that need that support? You can't write within forms, but you could do a screencast. So using Screencastify, you could screencast the form and read it aloud and cue students to play that audio or that video in another tab while they're doing it. That's the best answer I can come up with right now. But that is something that you could do if by doing a screencast. All right, I'm going to jump back in. So those of you who are in, oh, really quick, Heidi, the chat box is different from the question box. Are you looking for the link to the agenda? If so, I'm just going to type it in there for you really quick right now. Forms are our friend. Okay. All right, awesome. All right, heading back in here. All right. So if you are in the classroom, if you could go to this math quiz, if you could go and just jump in and take the math quiz, that is going to show you from your side what students see, but I'm also going to show the student view over on this side and talk about scoring. So while some of you are jumping in to take that quiz, so what you would do is you would click on it, and you would click right here on Math Quiz 2, and that's going to open for you in a new tab. So you can take that quiz or do that reflection or assessment. And I'm going to jump over here. So right now, you see the black outline here. This is my student view, just so you don't get confused. And you can see here, I don't have the grades tab. Students don't see that grades tab. So here I am in Classwork, and I could say, oh, here I am. I need to, oh, I'm going to refresh actually. Okay, here we go. So I'm a student. I'm in the student view, and just like some of you are doing right now, I might click on Math Quiz 2 and open it. It says, oh, you already responded. It would look just like the other form. You go through and you can answer your questions. We'll take a look at that. But what I really want you to see is what students see if you have it graded. So if you've made it a graded quiz and added the answer key in each question as you go along, students will see all of that here. So once you've released it, and I'll show you what that looks like on the teacher views, this is what students see. They see their total points. They see what's correct. If you decided to add feedback per question, it's here. So this is what they see. Now, this one here is where I had them draw a picture to show something. And so I was able to give specific feedback to this student and say, oh, you didn't do it, so you got 0 out of 2, but you know, I'm wondering if you just didn't know how to do it. Whereas on this one here, how did you get your answer? Explain how you arrived at your answer. The computer cannot score this for me. I need to score this. And so when the student first saw this, it was marked wrong, but I had as feedback, yes, here it is. Thank you. I'll read and score your answer to this question soon. And that way, if you want to release the quizzes or the assessments to kids right away so they can see what they got wrong and right, they don't freak out that, wait, I answered that. Is that wrong? They say, oh, no, that's one that she has to hand score. Or if you think that students aren't going to understand that, you could just save them, go through them one by one, and release them at the end. So this is what students see when they get it back. Let's go over and look at what it looks like when you're accessing their scores and making it a quiz.
Jaclyn?
Because the thing about, yes.
I'm sorry, a lot of people are asking if they don't have permission to get into the quiz, and they don't know, is it because they are on their school Google account, or that you need to give them access?
If they are members of the class, they should be okay. But let me look and take a look here and see what we have. Oh, this is a super teachable moment. Okay. I know exactly why.
Perfect.
So here is, let's see, Math Quiz 2, right? So right now I have this set that only people in my domain can answer. So I went up to my gear in my form and I restricted only users to be able to access it. So if you're sending something outside to families, you want to make sure this is unchecked. If you want to make sure that only your students in your school are responding to it, you will check it. So that's actually a really good example, and I'm going to click Save. So now if some of you refresh, you will be able to access the quiz. And it looks like someone already did, so that's good. So while some of you are refreshing and taking it, let's look at how I made it a quiz in the first place. So when I built my questions, I'm actually going to do this in another one so I don't mess with the quiz that I just made. When you're making your questions, you'll get the option.
I think somebody who has a phone. So if you're using a phone, could you please make sure you're muted? Thank you.
Let's try again. If any of the participants are calling in via cell phone, please make sure that your phone is muted. Thank you.
How do I do that?
You have to go to your settings. How do you mute your phone? Just, it should be one of the options.
It's on your screen. If you have an iPhone on your screen, it says mute.
You all set?
I think so.
Okay. Sorry. Jaclyn, you still there?
Yeah, so are we good?
I think so.
Hello? Okay, great. So if we've decided it's going to be a quiz, then you've chosen that in the gear in the top right and then quizzes. So once I say make this a quiz, I want to decide, okay, when am I going to release the grade? Is it immediately or later after manual review? For me personally, I want students to get immediate feedback, but I also know that I need to release, I want to release it later if it has a lot of things that I need to go through one by one and hand score and hand assess. And so there's two ways you could do this. One is you could do two separate forms. One form where anything that's multiple choice, check anything that has a black and white answer. You could do part one and students immediately to get that feedback, and then you could do part two of the form. And then you could choose later after manual review for that one. That way students can quickly get feedback on part of it at least, and then they know that the other part is coming. That's just personally what I would do. And then deciding what it is you want them to be able to see, depending on the information you want to get for them. So I'm just going to choose immediately right now. And so now that I've decided to make it a quiz, now I have a new option in the bottom left of my little question card. So I'm building my form and I click on answer key. Answer key is where I will select the correct answer. Let's do this one. There we go. Answer key is where I'll select the correct answer if there is one. There we go. And it's also where I can add answer feedback. So when I click on that, I get a new screen. Do I want to tell them something if it's incorrect specifically? Do I want to tell them, great job if it's correct? I mean, how much of this and how often you do it is up to you. Certainly feedback is what keeps teaching and learning going around and around. So you want to do it, but don't feel as though you have to give a piece of feedback for incorrect and correct for every single question every single time. Be realistic with yourself. You can type in feedback. You can add a link to something that might explain it or an example. You can include a video, things like this. So this is where you would add that feedback that students would see when they access their form. It's also where you decide on the point value. So here's where you decide on the point value for the question. And here we are. All right. So it's a lot of settings, and I know for those of you for whom Forms is new, you're probably thinking right now, this is just insanity. Like, this is way too much for me. And so when you have a chance to reflect and process on everything you've seen, just make a form, make it very short and sweet, and then practice sending it. Send it, give it to a spouse or a partner, or, a friend. Send it to yourself in a link and take the form, just to give yourself a moment to explore what it might be like. And just add on one feature at a time. There's a ton of different things you can do. Maybe you don't start with scoring them right away, and you just work on doing open-ended things with reflection. It is up to you, but just remember, keep it simple, keep it authentic, because there are so many different features. So I'm going to go in right now to my math quiz. And let me get into, here we are. So let's take a look now. I'm back in the form. And I'm going to, now I want to find my responses. So responses show up in two places. I'm in my form. I'm in edit mode in my form. I have gotten here. I've accessed this in Classroom. I just go to the assignment, go to the assignment, and I click on it, and I get this. I don't have to go digging in my drive. You don't have to go searching and sifting through folders. You just go into your classwork, you click on it, you open it right from the assignment. And so I can see my responses right here. I can see how many. I can see a summary of the responses. I can see the responses by question. And I can see individual. I like doing the individual view because then I can see the whole picture. Depends on what you're scoring. And now here is where you would give the individual feedback or add the points for anything that is hand scored. So, for example, for this one, okay, I can give 2 points. And I can also change the feedback. So this is changing it just for that student. So this is the feedback that I entered when I created the form. But if I specifically want to tell this student, great progress, or whatever, or maybe, you know, it's something that's specific, or if they got it wrong, you can give them specific feedback, like take a close look at the denominator, or whatever the question might be. And that's changing it just for that student. I have to save that, and that updates it right for the student as well. And I go through this way. So you have to decide how you want to go through these if you have things to hand score. If I click here, it takes me through the students, and you can see the names are changing here. And so as I do that, it's changing down here, and I can go through and look at each one. I can add the feedback. See, this marked wrong, but remember, like I said before, it's only marked wrong because I didn't give it an answer in the answer key. So I could say 2. I don't have to erase this feedback. I can leave it, and so on and so forth here. So again, when you're looking for your responses, you're going to go back into the form from the assignment in Classroom, click on responses, and this is where you will review student work. Now, when you're ready to release them, you click release, and you can do one at a time, or you could do them, go through all of the student work, and then click up here and do all of them at once. That might be a good way to go. Again, it's going to depend on, just going to depend on your comfort level. You can add a message. And then it says send emails and release. If your students aren't using email, that's okay, because they are now going to be able to see this form back in their classwork. So I'm going to head back over to the student view to show you that really quick, and then I'm going to look at questions because I'm sure there are a ton. Let's see, go back into my student view. Okay. So here I am, I'm a student, I'm in my student view, and I want to see my quiz score. So I can go here, I can say, oh look, here's Math Quiz 2. I can click on View Assignment. Up here I am. It says you already responded. Okay, great, good to know. View Score, and it opens it up. So when you click Release, that releases this form, this whole thing to students. So everything that I just did, they would do too. If they want to look at multiple, sorry, I'm going to click back to Classroom for a moment. Just a lot of clicking here. There we go. Okay, I'm back in Classwork. This little piece up here, View Your Work, this is specific to students. The teacher view does not have this. I can click on View Your Work, and I see everything I've been assigned. Students can filter it, what's been graded, what's been assigned. I can see, oh, I got a 6 out of 6 on that quiz. Awesome. Let me go look at the feedback. I can click on it, take a look, and then it takes you through that same path that students saw again. All right, I'm going to jump over to the questions. It's 4 o'clock. I always go over. I'm sorry. I try so hard to keep it to an hour. There's just so much to know. Question, can students add video in their form as part of their assignment? Yes, they can. If they have the skill set to make the video, add it to their drive and then link it. The question type you would use for that is, go over here for you. There we go. You would do the question type of file upload. So when students get to something that has file upload, what it will look like for them, I'm going to click on the preview so that you can see what it will look like for students. Students will see this button in the question, And when they click on add file, it'll walk them through selecting from their device, something from their drive. They're using a tablet or a phone and using my classroom app. You know, if they were taking a picture or a video, they could do it right from here. They would be able to do it. So that's one way that they could do that. Let me take a look here at a couple of other questions here. Can students do speech to text to fill it out? So this is a great question. Speech to text works beautifully in Google Docs. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to show you right now. So, and then I'll come back to forms. So in Docs, you can click on Tools, Voice Typing, click to speak. Excuse me. Hello, period. I am answering the question now, period. It works really well, period. My daughter wrote her letter to Santa when she was 4, I think, with voice to text. So the good answer is yes, students can do voice to text, to speak the text in Google Docs. They can't do it in forms. So it would take some copying and pasting back and forth, which isn't ideal. I do know there are other tools out there. The company that makes Equadio, Read and Write, I know they have a lot of tools for that. So I would highly recommend investigating those for those kiddos at this time. Let's see. You can't use a video file in your Google Forms. So you could do a link. They could do their link to the video and they could input the link. If I were having students submit a video though, this is actually, now that I think of it, one of those questions where I say, okay, what kind of information am I collecting and is Forms the best tool for it? For me, the best way to collect video for me would be probably in just a question, not even with one of the apps in Classroom. If you assign, let's see here, if we go create question or create assignment, I might just say, link your video from Drive here. I don't know that I would need the video to be collected from a form, is probably the way that I would say. Someone's asking about on your responses, it's not collecting emails. What did I do wrong? You need to check the box in the form settings. So sorry, clicking around one more time on you. Let me get to a form. Here we go. So I'm in an edit and draft form. In the top right, there's the gear, and you want to choose collect email addresses. But if you don't want to tell it every single time, remember we have this more menu, these 3 little dots. If you go to preferences and you tell it to collect email addresses every time, it will do that. If your student email addresses are numbers, that's not going to help you very much. It's probably best practice to just make the first question every time, no matter what is your name? It will save you a lot of headaches in the long run, and it takes 2 seconds because once you start typing, what is your name? It knows you want it to be a short answer and you're done. So I would just do it even though you know you're going to check the box in case you forget. That's just, I don't want you to have that headache. Let's see. What link? I'm not sure. Oh, you know what? If those of you who are getting access to the quiz anymore, it's because I checked the box. I was changing the settings back and forth. So I can go change that for you again. Here we go. Oh, question. Do you have to collect an email if it's in Google Classroom? No, you don't. But if you set that in preferences to collect every time, if you do forget to have students put their name, then it just kind of does that. Someone says, I've had a lot of trouble with questions and information being erased. Why don't you email me, Joe? Let's figure that out because nothing's ever gone in Google land. It's all there somehow. Everything saves as it goes. So let's see if we can figure out what was going wrong for you. Something that I didn't spend a lot of time on, and I know many of you have to go, and I'm sorry that I'm going over. There's just so much with forms. I didn't get to look at sheets. I do want to show you that, and then show you the gradebook quickly. This is an opinion statement. I'm not a fan of the classroom gradebook. I think it causes a lot of headaches. I'm surprised that they even put it in, because for so many years they said, nope, we're not doing that. No way. Stop asking. And then they did it. And I couldn't believe it. I think it creates more headaches. If you have another way of collecting scores and you have a school, like Power School or something like that, I would just keep collecting things in a spreadsheet, and, you can download them and upload them into Power School, something like that. That's what I would do. So I just wanted to head back here. Oops, lots of tabs open now. All right. Great. Okay, we are back in our quiz. I have my responses. And this little icon here says Create Spreadsheet. Now, for those of you that have been using forms and you are losing your mind because you have 8,000 forms and spreadsheets in your drive now, this is for you. So I can also view my responses in a spreadsheet. When I click here on View Spreadsheet, I can create a new spreadsheet, and it titles it right from what the quiz was, or the form itself was titled. Or I can select an existing spreadsheet. So here's the beauty of this option. If you're not familiar with Sheets, I'm going to open some Sheets right now. I'm just going to click really fast. So if you're like, where is she going? Just bear with me for a moment. So if you're familiar with Excel, Sheets works in a very similar fashion. In Sheets, when you get your answers, you can have different pages across the bottom in your workbook. So you might have Sheet 1, Sheet 2, Sheet 3, Sheet 4, and that's a bonus for you if you do forms a lot, because you could create one spreadsheet called Spanish Quarter 4. And you can tell every single form to build its responses in its own sheet, so you only have one sheet. Huge, huge bonus. So create a new spreadsheet, select existing. I'm going to select, there it is. I want it to go to this spreadsheet. It's going to link it there. So now all of my answers are here in this sheet, and I want to rename it. So form responses 1. So it took those and it spit them all into this sheet. And now I'm going to name it exactly what it was. It was quiz 2. I bet you're all getting very good at your naming conventions now to name things really intentionally. And then the next time I do a form or an assessment or a reflection or anything like that, and I open it for the first time as the teacher view, and I want to decide where does it go, when I click that, I'll get that option again to choose. Let's do it. I'm going to show you because I really want you to see. Here we go. So I'm in a new form now. I want to choose where my responses are going to go, and it's going to ask me, where do you want them? And I say, let's put them all in one place. I'm clicking here on my sheet. It's going to open it for me. Of course, there's no answers because it's not a form that we actually took. And here it is. See that quiz 2 that I put in there before? It's now in this tab, and my next one is here. So think about how you want to organize them so that you can easily access. And once you get a bunch of them in one, you might think, well, how do I find the form? Well, you just go to the tab, to the page where you have that form's responses. And you see up here in the menu where it says form, you can go right to that live form. So it really helps you organize things and find things without digging through your drive. I did see a toggle. Yep, here we go. A number of people said, how can I make a quiz that's only available during a certain part of the day? Or how can I make sure students are only doing their reflection on Mondays, or whatever it is that you're trying to do? You can do this. Just toggle it. Again, this is right here. I'm in my form in edit mode here. If I click on responses and I toggle this off, it says not accepting responses. And I can specifically say, sorry, we'll do this again next week, or please email me if you need to do this, or something like that. That toggle is really important. Okay, I want to just take one last look at questions. but I know that a number of you are having grading issues, and I knew I wouldn't be able to go into all the different scoring and grading possibilities and issues in this webinar. But definitely email me. I'll help you figure it out, what's going on, and I'll help you figure out a way that won't make you crazy to help you figure out the best way to do that. Because as the teacher, you know, the reason I don't love the gradebook in Classroom is because I feel like there's just too many steps. I'm adding feedback, I'm giving scoring, maybe in a form or in an assignment itself. And I might release the form in forms, but then I have to go over here and I have to return the work. So it's like this extra step that I think is very confusing to teachers. And I would rather have keep my own, here we go. So I'm back at that quiz that a lot of you took. It's keeping the score right here. I would rather take this and translate this right to whatever gradebook I'm using. Maybe the gradebook in Classroom is actually working beautifully for you and you think I'm crazy, but I just wanted to kind of show you that. If you think that the gradebook is confusing, I am with you. All right, jumping back to questions so we can wrap up. And I know that there will be so many, and I promise you that I will answer them all. Alana says, I feel like the only thing that works for automatic grading is multiple choice with one answer. Yes, that or checkboxes with a couple of answers. Or if it's a one-word answer and you can write it with, you know, a capital letter, without a capital letter, you know, if you can write it in a misspelled way that you think students might do, that's something you can do. Yeah, that's why I kind of gave that cue earlier, that you might want to think in terms of, you know, really thinking and being intentional about what kind of information you want to collect, what's important right now. Is forms the right way to do it? And if you want to collect that wider range of information, you're just going to have to hand score those questions and release it from there. So with that, I know that some of you have questions. I'll answer them. And if you're having lots of grading issues, please just email me and I'll help you figure something out.
Thank you, Jaclyn. I'm going to steal back the presentation.
Yeah.
If I can figure out how, show my screen. Who doesn't want to? You may have to give it back to me. Let's see. There we go. Hi, Sarah.
You get it?
I don't think you're seeing my screen yet. Share.
Not yet. I'm going to keep typing.
Let's see. I'll see if I can change it. If I can change it to me. Let's see. There we go.
There we go.
There, now you can see my screen. Thank you, Jaclyn. There are so many questions, and I know that people are frustrated that they didn't all get answered, but I promise you, we have them all, they all get stored, and I'll send them to Jaclyn, and she actually answers all of them very, very quickly. So they will be part of the link that we send you. We're going to send you a link, and at that link, there will be the PowerPoint presentation, a link to the video of the whole webinar, the certification document to show that you did this professional development, the agenda doc, and the questions with all the answers. So that will all be there. So remember, just take baby steps. If you've never used Google Forms before, just make a teensy little quiz. Try something really small. I want to let you know that we have done quite a few webinars. Jaclyn's also done quite a few of our webinars, but we have lots of webinars. This is just a partial list of the webinars. You will have access to, you can look at any of the videos on our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube, Demonstrated Success, all of the videos are there, so you can watch any of them. And if you want a certificate for it, just let us know. Send us which one you watched and we'll send you the certificate. I also want you to know that on Wednesdays, and it's not every Wednesday, but most Wednesdays, we are getting New Hampshire students to perform their music ability, and it's great. So it's on that's on our Facebook, and Emma Bursell, and if anybody knows if I pronounce that wrong, you have to let me know, Bursell or Bursell. She's a vocalist from Wyndham High School. She will be performing next Wednesday at 4 o'clock. And Lindsay Breyer, also from Wyndham, is a flutist or a flautist. We went back and forth on that. She is performing on the 6th of May at 4 o'clock. So please join us for that. And if you have any students that want to perform or you want them to perform, please let us know. Again, all the recorded webinars. And here are our email addresses. Please send us an email and we will get back to you. And we will send that link to you within a couple hours that has everything you ever wanted to know about forms. Thank you, Jaclyn.
Thank you, Jaclyn.
Thank you for having me and for hosting all of these. Just, you know, I really do mean it. You're all working so hard out there, and if something is giving you a headache and giving you a hard time, there's probably an easier way, and I will sleep better at night if you email me and I can help you with it. So yeah. Please do.
She means it, and there's her email. Write it down. Thank you for joining us. We will send out notifications of future webinars, but you can go on the Demonstrated Success network site and find a list of the webinars that are coming up. So thank you and have a good evening.